Brad Johnson Show. I'm turning losers like you into winners like me. You're about to enter the winning zone. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Brad Johnson Show, the one and only podcast that you will ever need. There are other ones out there, so I've heard. They do not compare in any way, shape, or form to this show, which is why you're listening to this show and not the other ones, because trying to do those two things at the same time does not work. Believe me, I've tried. I today have a guest on the podcast, which it's been a great time for guests recently. Just, all the people stuck at home, they don't have anything better to do with their life than listen to other podcasts. And it's just kind of depressing. So that's why I'm trying to put out a few more episodes here recently and just give people something decent to listen to, since there's so much other stuff out there. But my guest today, man, ladies and gentlemen, this guy, it's like we're brothers from another mother. It's incredible. I feel like how much we are almost related, but not at all in any way, shape, or form. And I definitely, have more hair than he does. So as we're introducing this guy, this is Christopher Wirth, who, little typo there, Chris. Sorry about that. But yeah, he spelled with an I. I don't know, it's just weird. But yeah, so noquitliving.com. And this guy, he has the attitude of gratitude and other attitudes as well that are beyond just gratitude, but also has that one. And it's so encouraging to see and amazing. And Chris, welcome to the show.
I appreciate it, Brad. Are you sure that we're not I thought we were related.
Oh, well, I spelled my last name correctly, so I'm not, I think no worries there.
I thought it was Aunt Betty on my dad's side. I thought was related to.
You have an Aunt Betty?
Yeah, my dad's side.
Okay. Yeah, I have one as well. I'm pretty sure she's dead though.
Oh, mine's dead too. That's how nice. I thought we were related.
Okay. Yeah, well, could be. You never know. My family does get around. So Chris, I'm just so glad to have you on the show. This is exciting. You're the type of person that I think some people would have heard about. I hadn't before. I don't even know if Aunt Betty mentioned you. But with your No Quit Living, like that to me, I think encapsulates so much of what the Brad Johnson brand is all about. And you've kind of taken and made your own little brand. So tell us about No Quit Living. What is that all about?
It's a motivational speaking, training, and coaching company. And
yeah.
My background is played college sports and coached college sports for a while. And I think the whole perspective of just that comeback story. I think America loves the comeback story, especially during 2020, which has been one of the most challenging years in the history of our country, I believe.
That's been pretty easy for me, but yeah, I can see where you're coming from. If people have gotten down, coming back, yeah, that can be very inspirational, kind of the whole Rocky type thing. So I love that. I love the motivational side of things. As people who've listened to the show for any amount of time know, I am pretty much number one when it comes to inspirational and being inspirational. So that's great that there's other people out there doing, because honestly, as many people listen to this podcast, I can't get to everybody. So having, people kind of doing some of my work for me that I don't have time to do is really, really cool. So, so tell us a bit about, you said sports. Now, this is very interesting to me because I feel like a lot of people have come from the sports arena, and literally and metaphorically. And I just find that fascinating that seems to be a common thread a lot of the time, especially with motivational people. What do you think it is about sports that just kind of brings that out of people where, did you mess up your knees? I mean, bad shoulders, and you're just like, what? Oh, I can't do that anymore. I'm just going to talk. I mean, what was it?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, people just like to hear themselves talk. So when you're done playing, whether it's by your choice or, like you said, a knee, shoulder, I think it's natural. When I was in high school, I remember my guidance counselor said, after college, just, go right into motivational speaking. I think that's a natural. So I just listened to him, and I think it worked out.
Now, interesting. So my motivational speaker told me that I should become a trash man, which, or not motivational speaker. My guidance counselor said that I should go into waste management and stuff like that, which I actually did for a little while, but it was more in a managerial position. I don't know if that's very good advice to listen to your guidance counselor necessarily. It seems like it worked out for you. Okay, I'm just checking out your website here, noquitliving.com. Which almost sounds like bad grammar sometimes when you say it, but we'll let that pass. You got featured on some places that I think people would recognize. One of those being Forbes, which is probably my favorite magazine ever. Is Forbes. Love that. Yeah, they tried to feature me several times, and I just turned them down. Didn't have time to do it. But what was that like? What was that like getting featured on Forbes?
And Forbes was really really neat. It's also referred to, I think, sometimes as Forbes. It all depends on as you
I've heard it both
said
ways.
your English in the past. But it was just it's one of the top magazines out there, so it was a huge honor to have our company be featured on there, and it was just something that came out of the blue as an introduction to from somebody that was a writer for it. So it totally came out of the blue.
Now, magazines, one could argue, are kind of falling by the wayside. Do you really think it had any impact on your business, or is it just kind of something to show off on your website with?
Definitely something to show off on the website. I think
Totally.
Forbes is such a cool magazine. And to your point, I definitely agree that the print world is going to the wayside, which is why I think great magazines like Forbes and Forbes take their content, put it on online as well. So I think they're trying to stay ahead of the
Wow.
curve if they can.
Talk about innovation, taking a print magazine and putting it on the internet. What will they think of next? So another one on there that I want to touch on because good buddy of mine, John Lee, on EO Fire. Like, tell me about that experience.
He's a good buddy of yours?
Oh yeah, we go way back. There was that one conference that he spoke at, and I was going to speak at, but just timing and scheduling wise, I had like another 3 conferences I had to go do it in the same time span, so it just didn't work out. But yeah, John Lee, me way back.
Yeah. He mentioned when he was on my show and I was on his show, he mentioned you quite a bit. He actually said that he got the inspiration for his show from you.
Not surprising. I get that a lot. You're making me blush, though. So yeah, tell me more about EO Fire. So you were on his podcast. He was on your podcast. Yeah, what was that like? What is he like? What does he look like? What color are his eyes?
He is about 5'8" tall. He's got dirty brown hair. His eyes are brown. He enjoys long walks on the beach, and he really, really has a fascination for European humor, and he loves poetry as well.
Ah, man, you the things you learn about people that you thought you knew. That's crazy. So the interview with him, he is robotic, I think is the word that most people would use for John Lee, with just same questions just over and over and over ad nauseum. So did you kind of try and shake it up a little bit or anything like that, or he just hit you with those same old questions?
Well, he definitely hit me with the same questions, but I wanted to keep him on his toes. So what I was doing is I was actually answering different questions every time he asked me a question, and it totally threw him off. So I actually was answering the questions before he asked them. So when you listen to the show, it's actually pretty interesting. So I tell people to listen to it backwards, and you can actually hear it perfectly straight.
Genius. I love it. Yeah, that's so good. I mean, with a show like that he's got like 1 billion episodes. It's like, come on, dude, get a life. Anyway, so yeah, that's great. Being on EO Fire. Yeah, you'll have to next time you chat with him, just let him know that Brad said hi. I could text him, but a little busy right now doing a podcast with Christopher Wirth. All right, so I want to jump into just a little bit more of your backstory. So you said your guidance counselor said, Chris, go be an inspirational speaker, and you were like, sure, and just like went and did it. Did you go to inspirational speaker school? Like, what was the process for you?
Yeah, so I went to regular college and got a regular degree, and then after playing college sports, I went to a community college, inspirational community college locally here in the state of Connecticut, and it was fascinating. I got my degree in 45 minutes, and it was just spectacular. There was a lot of work. It didn't seem like 45 minutes. It probably seemed at least like 50, maybe 55 minutes, but
wow.
I passed the written exam in like 25, 30 minutes. It was a written oral exam, and I passed with flying colors.
Wow. Yeah, that's inspirational right there, and I think that's kind of the whole point here is that inspiration doesn't just happen on the stage; it happens in the life of everyone. And that's why my IG is so freaking baller. Is because like I have had people tell me that they have like turned their life around just by following me on Instagram. So I mean, yeah, I love that the inspiration can be outside of the stage. Now, speaking of stages, I feel like right now, with the way things are, obviously stages are, they're still easy to get on. The problem is that there's no audience, which I find kind of complicates the whole inspirational speaking thing. So, with that in mind, how have you pivoted? Because I think pivot, that's a really cool word. First of all, I just like how it sounds. But second of all, yeah. So tell me about that.
Could you use it in a sentence?
I just did like 3 times. So
Another one? Could you do another one? I want to hear another one.
I will pivot this question back to you, Chris.
Awesome. Yeah, so I think for everybody, these crazy times have definitely people have had to pivot. And from your comment about the stage, yeah, there are no stages where people are speaking in front of to a live audience. So everybody, myself included, had to pivot towards a virtual experience and a virtual business, which is definitely challenging. And we probably had about 70% success rate from our typical clients, and I think that's probably above the average. But it's been challenging, and I think the one caveat is just it takes away that live interaction of being in front of somebody or an audience and having that experience. It's a very different perspective when you are doing it virtually from a screen or behind a camera.
Yeah, and I think that just speaks a lot to the fact that most people have very flat personalities. Actually, the Brad Johnson show got way out ahead of this. It's almost like I can read the future sometimes. The Brad Johnson video course came out, man, I don't remember, that was like last fall or something like that, before anybody even knew about this whole junk that was going on. And boom, like I'm virtual, I'm right there, I'm on whatever stage you want me to be, even if your stage like is on your phone while you're in the bathroom, it doesn't matter. So I think going virtual, that was the way of the future, but is now the way of the past because I already did it. So with that in mind, your podcast, the No Quit Living podcast. So again, I'm having a little bit of trouble with the name. So No Quit Living, it sounds like you never quit. Is that kind of what you're going for there? Am I reading that right?
I could change it if you want me to.
Yeah, I think it might be good. We could talk about other options. I'm thinking like Never Quit, I think has a bit more of a ring to it. Just, I'm totally spitballing off the top of my head. So, we could focus group it, I think would be good. But yeah, tell me more about the podcast. What do you do on there? Why do you do it on there? And more importantly, what do you do on there?
So great question. I appreciate that. It
was a great question, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah. Kudos to you for that.
Hey, James, write that one down. I want to use that again. Sorry, go ahead.
Who's James?
Oh, James, my assistant.
Oh, nice. My assistant is James also.
Really?
Yeah. But from not Aunt Betty's side, Uncle Jim's side. But back to your question. Podcast is to have some amazing guests, a lot of athletes, speakers, entertainers, coaches. And the whole premise behind it is just asking people for their no quit story or a time in their life, professionally, personally, where they could have given up or given in and they didn't. And to your comment way earlier about Rocky and those things, people like those comeback stories, and it's been unbelievable. I've had some fantastic guests on the show, and we've had some success, and I owe it all to the amazing guests we have, as well as to James.
I think you probably actually owe it all to iTunes, because they're kind of important when it comes to that sort of thing. Wouldn't it be not very helpful if you interviewed a bunch of people and then didn't have iTunes? That'd be ridiculous. But yeah, so no quit stories. I love that concept. I think it'd be really interesting if you just kind of asked me about my no quit stories. I have so many of them because I've never quit ever. It's been amazing.
So I'll flip it back to you. What has been your most inspirational or personally rewarding no quit story during your life?
Oh wow, Chris, I wasn't expecting that. Man, if I had to pick one, There was so this was kind of in an early stage of my career. I was actually originally going to be an actor. I was scouted by about four different people, including Leonardo DiCaprio's agent. He was trying to sign me on and stuff, and really, I just got so many options that I wanted to quit. It was just like, this is too much. I can't handle it. And I had these like negative thoughts, and I was just like, I can't do this. I can't pick between all these options of people that want me to come act in their, blockbuster movies. And I didn't know what to do. It was a dark time for sure. But what finally ended up pulling me through is I was walking down the street, and a magic 8 ball was sitting there, on the sidewalk. And I just picked it up, and it said, "Don't even think about it." And I was just like, boom, that's it. So I didn't think about it. And instead I went and started my own company, and decided that I'm going to make the movie myself. Okay. So yeah, that's probably one of my favorite no quit stories that I've ever had.
That's
Pretty inspirational.
It is inspiring. I took some notes, and I have to say that I'm definitely inspired to keep going today. So I'll never quit as well.
Yeah. That's what it does. That's what it does every time. Oh man, that's it feels good just being able to put that out into the world. So yeah, if you want me to come on the show, I'd be happy. I got millions more of those type of stories that just
have you thought about writing a book ever?
Oh, Chris, come on, give it the times. I have written multiple books. I have actually in one of my houses, I have a whole library that's just dedicated to my books. That I actually ended up turning it all into ebooks. So I wanted to kind of go green. So instead of individual books, I have individual ebooks for each one on the shelves there, of all the books that I've written. Mostly nonfiction, but actually did delve into the fiction side of things here recently. So they're kind of entrepreneurial spy thriller novels. I actually got 3 of them out. It's a trilogy. Very, very amazing books. And actually, people, if you want to, you can go back in the archives of the Brad Johnson Show podcast, and yeah, I give a free sample of one of those books. So check that out. Anyway, yeah, tell me about your book. Speaking of books, I mean, enough about mine, unless you want to ask me more questions about it, which would be interesting. But what about your book? I think you are an author as well.
I am an author as well. I appreciate it. I wrote a fable similar to, not sure if you're familiar with John Gordon, the author, but similar to his writing style. And it's a motivational fable regarding 3 high school juniors that are going through some challenging times. And I co-authored it with a friend of mine, and we actually wrote it during this pandemic. And it's been fascinating, the response we've gotten. It's only been out for 2 weeks now, so we're really excited about where it's going.
Brand new author. That's so cute. So yeah, so John and I actually we go way back as well. But yeah, so Fable. So what was that all about? I don't understand.
What don't you understand, my friend?
Fable.
You don't understand fable, or why I wrote a fable, or you don't understand the word? Is it too?
Yes.
Okay. Fantastic. So the story behind a fable is something that is believable and true, but has typically a message behind it, whether that's of inspiration, whether it's educational. And the research behind fables being not only read but also received a little bit differently is one of the reasons why we wanted to write it. And obviously a little bit different than your writing of fiction and nonfiction. A fable is kind of a mix in some ways between the two.
Okay, I get it. Okay, yeah. So I was just thinking of a different word that I was used for. I totally knew what you were talking about. So yeah, that's interesting. So basically, it's like lying to people to teach them a lesson, right? So kind of like how my dad used to tell me that it wouldn't shock me to put the fork in the outlet.
My dad told me the same thing.
Oh man, nice. Yeah, I mean, it totally taught me the lesson. I mean, I never forgot that you don't stick a fork in the socket without wearing a rubber glove. I now know.
Oh, I still do it. It's fun. It's actually better than coffee in the morning.
Yeah, totally. Really gets things moving. So on your podcast, jumping back to the podcast, I just love podcasts because I have a podcast and it's the best podcast. So I want to talk about other podcasts that aren't necessarily the best podcasts, but are still nonetheless podcasts. Who's your favorite guest that you've had on, or most famous guest? I think that's kind of the question that I always come back to because people like to know. They like the fame factor.
Yeah, so my most famous guest I had on was the real Rudy from the football movie from the 1990s.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, that's my most famous one. My second most famous one is Brad Johnson. He's gonna be a guest on the future episode.
Oh man, Chris, that would be amazing. And just just to let you know up front, I do not charge for that. Like the sales that come off the back of that, I don't charge for that because just getting my name on there and the SEO stuff that happens because of having Brad Johnson. Yeah, forget about it.
I don't know.
Better make sure your website doesn't crash.
I don't know if you have your calendar in front of you, but I was thinking maybe 4 weeks, 4 Tuesdays from Never Day. I think that would probably work for me, my schedule too.
Chris, you're such a jokester, such a jokester. I love it. And this is why people, the Brad Johnson brings you the value. So Chris, speaking of bringing the value, we talked about your book, we talked about your podcast. Tell us about kind of the services that you offer to clients as far as inspirational stuff. I mean, is this like a 5:30 a.m. phone call, just being like, hey, get out of bed, you slob, like that type of thing? Or what do your services look like?
It's like usually 4 a.m. phone calls, and most, I'd say 96 to 98% of my clients are asleep at that point. So you really want to, take that glass of water and just throw right in the face to wake them up. But that's pretty much the services. It's just real intense in your face. You can do better, get going. You're not successful enough. You owe it to yourself. A lot of that rah type work. And then we also mix in some coaching and training for executives, sales teams. We do a lot with college sports teams. So although that's the second piece of it, the first piece really is that just, kick right to the face. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, I just, listening to like a Rocky speech or something like that. I mean, that just gets me pumped up every time. Makes, on the verge of tears sometimes with some of those speeches. So I can see how powerful that would be. And if people want to get that, you can just go to noquitlife.com. And is that the best place?
I mean, that's I'm not sure if that's a website. You could also go to noquitliving.com too. I'm not sure. Either
one works too.
Yeah, that one works too.
Either one. Okay, so Chris, where would you like people to find you besides like your house? Because that would just be creepy.
I mean, people are always welcome to come to the house, but I also prefer.
I don't know. Some of the Brad Johnson Show listeners, I don't think you'd.
I mean, they're always welcome. It's we have I have a bunch of pit bulls and a couple of Rottweilers, so they can go that route or traditional website, which, as you said, is noquitliving.com. And
as I said,
I also leave my personal email address, which is chris@noquitliving.com, as I love to connect with new people. And I would love the opportunity to have you on my show so I can interview you if you have some time.
Hey, Chris, time is of the essence, as I always say. That's what I always say. And because of that, I feel like being on people's podcasts is basically the most essence of things that I can do. And so that's why I go on to any podcast that will have me, because I have so much value and I can only get so much out of it on this podcast that I need other podcasts to contain the value which is inside me currently. The answer is yes.
Would it be okay if I asked you one quick question?
Oh, of course.
What is the most inspirational lesson or message you have received, whether it was from father, a coach, a teacher in your life? I'm curious.
Most inspirational message, man. That is a good question, which I usually questions aren't unless I'm asking them. So, high praise coming from me. But I would say the most inspirational message that I've ever received would probably be just when I look at myself in the mirror and I say, Brad, hey, you're Brad. Okay, so that right there. Just saying it now. I'm not even looking in the mirror, but when I do look in the mirror, like it nearly like drops me to the ground. Just that realization. I feel like how could it be more inspirational than just realizing the fact that I am me? Like
Wow.
that pretty
Wow.
much says it all. So just
Can I quote?
let
I'm going
that
to quote
sink
you
in.
on that if you're okay.
Yeah, usually I charge for that, Chris, but since we're such good friends, I'll let it slide this time.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, Chris, thanks so much for coming on the show. Is there anything that you wanted to leave the audience with that, I didn't ask you or just didn't really care about?
No, I think I actually took a bunch of notes myself. I'm actually going to completely redo my podcast in the same form and the same
Nice.
format as yours. And I just appreciate you for the opportunity and being such an inspirational podcast host. I hope your listeners truly value what you bring.
Yeah, I sure hope so as well, because it would just be super lame if they didn't. But Chris, thanks for coming on the show. I will update the Brad Johnson Nation once we know when I'll be on your show and making that happen and making the magic of podcasting come together and explode the world. So thanks so much, Chris. And people, go check him out. NoQuitLiving.com. Christopher. And thanks so much for coming on.
Appreciate you, brother.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you've just listened to another amazing episode of the Brad Johnson Show. There's so much more awesomeness in the world of Brad Johnson. You got to just check out the backlog episode things. They're all there. And also the Brad Johnson course. It is a real video course that you can get. You can watch my amazing face. Unfortunately, James is in the video course as well. But if you overlook that, it's amazing. So check that out. All the links are in the show notes, and I'm going to be linking to Chris and all of his awesome stuff in the show notes as well. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time. Ciao.
You've just listened to an episode of awesomeness. Now go out and spread the awesomeness and help others fix the mess that is their life and help them stop being a loser and start winning in business, health, and their personal life by getting them to listen to The Brad Johnson Show. Book your face, tweet your tweets, and Insta your grams at Brad Johnson Show. The Brad Johnson Show. Winners only.
When I was in school, I absolutely hated writing. It wasn't until I was a bit older that I came to understand the power of words. If you're a business owner, you understand that power too. A business blog, when done right, can drive sales, increase revenue, and get you more customers. But as a business owner, you probably don't have the time to do all that writing. Plus, if you're not a copywriter by trade, you might feel like you're just kind of throwing words out there and they're not actually accomplishing anything. The good news is, there's a simple solution. Check it out. I call it the ultimate blog post checklist for businesses with online stores. This checklist will allow you to write better, more effective articles that convert readers into buyers. It's full of easy-to-follow examples to get your creativity flowing based on experience of nearly 1 million words written, and best of all, it's effective on any type of article in any industry or niche. I've successfully used this exact checklist on topics from pool table reviews to investment advice. Tired of spending tons of time writing stuff that doesn't convert? This checklist will change that by giving you highly effective blog posts and articles that transform readers into paying customers. Go to invicta.enterprises/free checklist and start saving time and transforming your writing now. That's invicta.enterprises/free checklist.